Hello, so this is now my second YouTube video. Hopefully the first one you guys found interesting, and you probably will have noticed, if you have been on Go to School since my first video, that I also put some homework on for your Easter break, which was to do with your mocks. It was essentially just a revision of everything that we've covered kind of this last year. If you are looking at this video now and you're thinking, Miss, I've not got a clue what you're talking about, please could I just suggest that you go back, like just pause this video and go back on to Go to Schools and do that first. Download it, print it off, do whatever you want to do with it, as long as you answer the questions on there and just kind of get that back in your brain. So that's kind of going to be at the forefront of your mind, because all of the questions on there are probably going to come up in your mocks, and it's just really, really important for you guys just to look at it and just make sure that you're recapping on everything that's on there. And also it's going to be stuff that we even covered today. So yeah, anyway, secondly, I should probably just acknowledge that I hope that you had a lovely Easter break, filled with lots of chocolate and sunshine, hopefully. Yeah, I know mine was, despite my pale looking skin. I was in the sun a lot. So today's lesson we are looking at essentially where fabrics originate from. So I've called it Fibres and Fabrics Part 2, so it's kind of a carry on from the last video that I did. So hopefully there's kind of like a nice smooth transition and you can kind of see where it links in to last lesson. So if we go on to slide 2, as always I've just put some keywords on there. If you are unsure with anything that's on there, please can you just make a note of writing it down in the back of your purple books. As always, that's going to help you massively when it comes to revision. And if you're unsure of anything and maybe I don't necessarily cover it in as much detail as what you wanted this lesson, then please just send me an email and I will happily just reply to you and try and be as detailed as possible. So if we go on to slide 3, this is where it gets fun for me because I get to talk about fabric. So essentially, if you have a natural fabric, it's going to fall into 2 categories. If you're looking at that slide 3 and you're thinking it's quite obvious what categories we fall into, good, fantastic. Because if you're looking at it on the left side, you have got natural protein fabrics, which always come from animals. So it's going to be fur, hair, or it's going to be an animal that produces that fabric, like a silkworm. And then you've got in the right category natural cellulose, so that will be fabrics which are generally farmed massively over fields, and that will be things like cotton, or what else have we got, linen. So generally they're going to be slightly cheaper fabrics purely because they're going to be the fabrics that are going to have like pesticides and chemicals grown on them or thrown on them, just essentially so they can grow really quick and go out to the customer even quicker. Okay, which again is why you pay slightly more for organic, because it's kind of takes a lot longer and you need to pay people's wages. So all kind of lots has to be taken into consideration. If we move on to slide 4, we've got polymerization. Okay, so this is where I enjoy this part because I like being super nerdy about like special technical fabrics. So for me, polymerization, if I'm going to summarize it to you guys, is essentially when fabrics are going to be merged, created together to make like a amazing fabric. So if you think you've got 2 fabrics, we'll say we've got the second and third fabric, and then they form together to get like a big fabric, like an awesome fabric, which essentially is going to have the qualities of the first fabric or the second fabric and the third fabric, and then you kind of come together. So think of it like a little pyramid. The best example of this would be Kevlar. Specifically, off the top of my head, I don't actually know what 2 fabrics Kevlar is made from, which I probably should have researched prior to actually making this video. However, if you want to do that and then send me an email, I will happily mention you in my next video. So Kevlar is essentially made woven like that. We all know about woven fabric. Essentially it's pulled really tight, so tight that the fabric, when you then touch, feels more like a card, and then that's then going to be made for a specific purpose. So in the example of Kevlar, it's made for bulletproof vests. If you have never ever touched a bulletproof vest, which I have never touched one, well, we kind of know that it's going to be quite hard to touch because obviously a bullet. Yeah, and essentially that is made, woven, lots and lots of layers of this really, really sturdy woven fabric that will then stop a bullet, which is crazy to think. If we go on to slide 5, we've got essentially looking at how cotton is farmed. You can kind of see there, cotton is made from loads and loads of little pods. Just a really interesting fact, them pods, I did a little bit of research online earlier, and one of them pods weighs roughly, this is just an estimate because obviously each pod will be different, 50 grams, okay? It then takes 1 kilogram of cotton to make a single pair of jeans, okay? Great, fantastic. However, over 1 billion pairs of jeans are then produced each year, okay? Just think of that in terms of sustainability and how many farms you would then need to make a load of jeans for 1 year. Like, that's why people always go on about sustainability and reusing and upcycling and, you know, making the most of your fabrics, instead of just going to Primani or, I don't know, H&M, and just getting the cheapest thing possible, because there's no need for it, because it's not just the massive fields, it's also the water, the manual labour, the dye, you know, there's so much more that needs to be considered when you're thinking of how fabrics are made. Anyway, this has gone off on a tangent. So if we go on to slide 6, we've then got linen, and I haven't got any notes written for linen. So essentially here, the bottom slides, or the bottom picture, sorry, I've just got how linen is produced. You can kind of see that it's grown in a field. Quite an interesting fact is they decide to, so normally when things are kind of cut in fields, you would just cut it straight off with a blade. With linen, they actually just fold it. So if you've got it growing that way, then just fold it like that, and it's not completely cut off. And that's essentially to keep the fabric, like to preserve the quality, which I thought was quite interesting. The best example of linen that I could give you is like the bags that are on the right, but probably if you look in your wardrobe somewhere you will have linen, because linen is like a super lightweight fabric that most people wear over summer just because it's really breathable and it's kind of like minimum effort. You don't really need to iron it. Well, actually you do need to iron it. Ignore me. So then I've put a quick summary for slide 7. Essentially just answer some of the questions, which would be fantastic. All quite straightforward. I'm pretty sure, I'm looking at it now and we've covered everything in there. So you should know all of that. And if my little recap doesn't help, then again, just send me an email. If we go on to slide 8. Again, this is Miss that's about to get super nerdy, because I absolutely love looking at things underneath microscopes. So essentially you've got different types of fibres. So you've got staple fibres and filament fibres. Staple fibres are, we've got a short fibre with kind of like a wavy texture. So most natural fibres will be staple fibres. And then you've got a filament fibre. Okay, so filament fibre is synthetic, okay, so it's going to be produced by a person or a machine. So that generally means that that fibre is going to be super, super straight, or there's going to be kind of like no rough edges. And again, you can think of like the difference between when you touch, so we've got polyester as synthetic fibre. So think of when you touch like your jumper or maybe like some sportswear that you've got, it's going to be really, really soft. And then you've got a staple fibre, which like we've got the coarse wool. So imagine when you touch like a massive sheep that's got loads and loads of hair, or maybe even like a cow, like if you stroke their fur. Fur, I don't know if it's fur. Anyway, so I've just got a quick task there. I've got from the above information, what fabrics from the picture on the right might be considered filament fibres. So what do we know about filament fibres? They're super smooth. So just have a look and just decide. Send me an email actually of what ones you think would be filament fibres, because that would be quite interesting to know that. So if we then go on to slide 9, we've just got fabric structures there. So I've just written, please could you create your own version of that in your books, so you know about woven fabrics, the way that they're created. We know knitted fabrics, so woven is going to be on the warp and weft, and you know about warp and weft. Knitted is obviously created through loops. Now we've got non-woven, which will be generally going to be bonded fabrics. So think of like a wetsuit fabric, like a rubber, yeah, or maybe even like the bottom of your shoes or something. Yeah, so if you could try and create something like that. And then just as the last activity, I've just put find a fabric sample for each of the following. Okay, so we've got a woven fabric, a non-woven fabric which is bonded, and then a non-woven fabric which is felted, and then a knitted fabric. So all I'm going to ask you to do for that is just have a look through your wardrobe, your mum's wardrobe, your dad's wardrobe, your dog's wardrobe, anyone's wardrobe, and just try and find fabrics that are for that. If you want to get a picture of that, that would be super helpful for you when you get to revision, because you can kind of remember and think, oh yeah, my dad's jumper was knitted. It might help. I would like to think it does. And I think that's essentially all that I've got to say for today's lesson. Hopefully my video helped. Again, I will just reiterate that if you haven't looked at your revision that was set for over Easter, please could you make it a priority just to go back, just stop whatever you're doing, just go back and look at that, because that's quite important. And then yeah, please send me an email, let me know if these videos are helpful actually as well, because at the moment I sort of just feel like I'm just talking into a camera and it's quite a surreal situation. So hopefully this helps, and have a good week.